Hi there, and welcome to this lesson. In this lesson, we'll be learning percentages, okay? And under percentages, we'll be learning about percentage increase and decrease. Okay, so percentage increase and decrease. We're often required to increase a given amount by a certain percentage or decrease a given amount by a certain percentage. One very common application of this principle is we often have discounts, okay? For example, you could have a sale, maybe a Black Friday sale, and you could have a certain percentage off the price of something where you actually get to buy things at a cheaper price. Okay, and yeah, basically, as the lesson progresses, anything you don't understand, be sure to contact your tutor who would be more than happy to help. And yes, let's jump right into the lesson. Percentages, percentage increase and decrease. Now, basically, the percentage increase or decrease of an amount is the increase or decrease in the amount expressed as a percentage of the initial amount. Okay, so express the increase, or let's use the discount example again. So if you have a certain item on discount, and let's say they're giving 20% off, right? So they decrease the price of that item by 20%. That reduction in price is a percentage, it's 20% of the original price of that item. So the increase or decrease, the change in the amount of that item, the change in the value of that item expressed as a percentage of the original amount. So for example, if you have a 10 naira pen and you reduce that 10 naira pen by 20%, you would end up giving away 2 naira. You would reduce it by 2 naira because 2 naira is 20% of 10, and then the new price of that pen would be 8 naira. Okay, so it's very important that you understand exactly what's going on here, because if you try to memorize formulas, you most definitely would not get it. So understand exactly what's going on here, and yeah, let's do a few examples. So we have this one, and we have the price of a car that cost the price of a car that costs 500 naira was increased by 20%. Okay, so we have this car, 500 naira. We increase the price of this car by 20%. Calculate the new price of the car. So the first thing we need to do is we need to find out exactly what 20% of 500 naira is. Okay, and then we add that value to 500 naira. Okay, this time the price of the car was increased, so we add whatever that increment is by to 500 naira to give us the new price of the car. So we have the initial amount as 500 naira. We have the percentage increase as 20%. Okay, like I said, the first thing we want to do is we want to find what the actual increase is, what the value is. So we have 20%, and we just multiply 20% by 500. So we find 20% of 500, and we end up with 100 naira. Okay, so now that we have the increase, we can then add this value to the initial amount, and this will give us the new amount. The new amount is 500 plus 100, that is 600 naira. So if you increase 500 naira by 20%, you end up with 600 naira. Now, there's another way to solve this, okay? Another interesting way to solve this. And basically what we did here is we actually found the increase, okay? We found the increase, the percentage, 20% of 500 gave us the increase, and then we added the increase to the initial amount. Something else we can do is we can add the percentage. We can do this addition using the percentages. I'm going to show you exactly what you're going to do. So you have initial amount as 500 naira and percentage increase as 20%. Now what you're going to do is you're going to find the percentage that represents the new amount is 100, which is the whole, which represents the initial amount, okay, plus the 20%. Okay, so if you're going to increase something by 20%, that thing in itself, on its own, at the start, is 100%. Okay, it's 100% of itself, basically. If you have something as 10 naira, 10 naira is 100% of that thing. Now, if you're going to increase that thing by 20%, you're going to add 20% to 100%. Okay, and you end up with 120%. So 120% represents the value of the new amount in terms of percentages. And now to get the new amount, you just go ahead and find what 120% is of 500. And you say 120 times over 100 times 500, and it actually gives you your answer right away. 120 times 5 gives you 600 naira. Okay, so you can either find the percentage increase. Okay, find the increase from the percentage increase, find the value of the increase, and then add the increase to the initial amount. Or you can just add the percentage increase to 100%, okay, which give you the percentage for the new amount, and then you find that percentage times the initial amount will give you your new amount straight away. And I actually prefer the second one. You can see it's a lot quicker. You actually do less work there. And then, but yeah, let's go ahead and do a few examples. So example 1. Now we've been asked to decrease 800 kilograms by 30%. Okay, so decrease 800 kilograms by 30%. So our initial amount is 800 kilograms. Okay, and percentage decrease is 30%. So we're talking decrease this time. So our initial amount is going to reduce. Okay, we're going to slash our initial amount by a certain amount, basically, which represents 30% of our initial amount. But then our decrease would be the percentage decrease times the initial amount. So we'll find out exactly what 30% of 800 kilograms is. And we just go 30 divided by 100 times 800. And what we have is we have 30 times 8 gives us 240 kilograms. Now, since we've been told that it was decreased by 30%, and we'll find that 30% is 240 kilograms. To find our new amount, we just subtract that decrease from the initial amount, and what we have at the end is we have 560 kilograms. Another way you can do this, basically, if you have an initial amount of 800 kilograms, and you have a percentage decrease of 30%, you can find the new amount by simply subtracting. Remember, the initial amount in itself is 100% on its own. If you reduce that by 30%, you're simply subtracting 30 from 100. And what you're left with is you're left with 70%. Now, 70% of the original amount will give you the new amount right away. So you have 70 divided by 100 times 800, and you just do that, and you have 70 times 8, and it gives you your answer 560 kg straight away. Okay, and then yeah, that's pretty much it. Very simple, very straightforward. Let's do a few more examples. Example 2, and we have a man bought a car for 1000 naira and sold it for 12% more. How much did he sell the car for? So the initial amount is 1000 naira, okay, and we have an increase of 12% in the price. So we have initial amount 1000 naira, increase is 12%. The percentage that will represent the new amount would be 100 plus 12, which gives us 112. So the new amount would just be 112% of 1000 naira. And then we just work that, and we're left with 112 times 10, and we have 1120 naira. Simple. Okay, I prefer this method. Basically, if you're going to increase something by a given percent, you just add that percentage to 100, and then find, you get your result, and then your result in percentage, and then you multiply that percentage by your initial amount, you get your new value. Very simple. Another one, a house valued at $5,000 cost $4,000 5 years ago. Calculate the percentage increase. Okay, so we're given the initial amount, the final amount, and we're looking to find the percentage increase. Now, to do that, we need to find the increase. So, initial amount 4,000, new amount 5,000. The increase would be the new amount minus the initial amount. So, the increase is $1,000. Okay, and now we just need to find $1,000 of $4,000 to give us as times 100 over 1 to give us as per our percentage increase. So we have increase divided by initial amount. It gives you the fraction, and then you multiply that by 100. It expresses it in percentage, and when you work that out, you end up with 25%. This is really, really easy. Once you get the fundamental understanding of what we're talking about here, you don't need to memorize any formulas, just know exactly what you're doing. Okay, another example, example 4. For example 4, we have during a Black Friday sale, a pair of shoes normally sold for 750 naira was sold for 415 naira. Calculate the percentage decrease in the price of the shoe. Okay, so we have this shoe. It was for 750 before, now it's selling for 450, and we're looking to find the percentage decrease. So the first thing we want to do is we want to find the actual decrease. So initial amount is 750, the new amount is 450. So the decrease, if we subtract the new amount from the initial amount, we know the amount by which how much the amount changed. And basically we have 750 minus 450, it gives us 300. Now next thing we're going to do is we're going to find, remember, percentage increase is always a percentage of the initial amount. So we have the decrease divided by the initial amount times 100. Okay, so the decrease divided by the initial amount is expressing the decrease as a fraction of the initial amount, and then we multiply this by 100, and it expresses it as a percentage. And what we have in the end is we have 40%. Okay, so these are actually really simple. One last question. Now, this one is a very interesting question, and we'll find out why shortly. So, we have the fare for air travel from Lagos to Accra was increased by 20%. If the new fare is $300, calculate the fare before the increase. Now, there's something very interesting here. And the reason this is a very special question is because we don't have the initial amount. Okay, initial amount is missing. That's exactly what we're looking for, the fare before the increase. And something you need to know, when you're doing percentage increase or decrease, it is always a percentage of the initial amount. But now the initial amount is not given, so it makes this actually very, very, very interesting. But then, to solve this, we have the new amount as $300. Okay, the new amount as $300, and we have an increase of 20%. So if the increase is 20%, okay, that means the new amount was 100. The percentage that represents the new amount is 100 plus 20, which gives us 120%. Okay, so the percentage that represents the new amount is 120%. So 120% of something equals $300. Okay, so 120% of the initial amount equals $300. So we have the new amount, $300, is the percentage 120% times the initial amount. Okay, and basically we have, when you work that, if you change this around, if you have percentage times initial amount equals new amount, initial amount would equal new amount divided by the percentage of the new amount. Just think about it. If you have 8 equals 4 times 2, you have 2 equals 8 divided by 4. Alright, so we have new amount times new amount percentage times initial amount percentage giving you new amount. If you want initial amount, you just divide new amount by the new amount percentage. And we just go ahead and do that. We have $300 divided by 120%. We have 300 divided by 120 over 100 equals 300. Basically, if you remember how to divide by with fractions, you just flip the top and the bottom. And you have 300 times 100 over 120. And when you work that, you end up with $250. So the initial fare for air travel from Lagos to Accra before it was increased by 20% was $250. And that would bring us to the end of this very simple, very interesting lesson. You can go ahead now and attempt questions on the worksheet. Bye for now.